Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the July 14th, 2019 edition of The Breast There Is, The Breast There Was, and The Breast There Ever Will Be Wrestling Podcast. As always, I am your host, Mikey B, WWE, and this is also the fourth episode of Season 3 of my podcast. And tonight's podcast will be featuring the Extreme Rules WWE pay-per-view event taking place this evening. Before I begin and go into my predictions for this evening's pay-per-view, I'd like to quickly review my predictions and my success rate so far in this season of my podcast. Of the 3 pay-per-views which have come since WrestleMania this year, I have a total of 17 correct out of 27 possible matches on each of the full cards. As always, not including any of the kickoff show matches. Last month at Stomping Grounds, I took a bit of a hit, only getting 4 out of 8 correct on that pay-per-view card. So definitely looking to turn things around on this pay-per-view and have a much better showing this time around. Extreme Rules tonight has 10 matches on the card and 2 kickoff matches. As I just said, I do not include the kickoff matches as part of my predictions, so giving my calls on the 10 matches taking place tonight, and the first of which is between Kevin Owens and Dolph Ziggler. In this one, Kevin Owens, he was one of the matches. He was one of the victors of one of the matches I guessed wrong at Stomping Grounds. Him and Sami Zayn were victorious over New Day. So I'm thinking, especially in light of Kevin Owens having a lot more involvement in the storyline as of late, that I'm going with Kevin Owens to be victorious here. Dolph Ziggler's been too uneven and too in and out of the story for me to want to choose him. So Kevin Owens is my choice to win this matchup. The next match is the last man standing match between Braun Strowman and Bobby Lashley. This feud, of course, had a very controversial moment a few weeks ago on Monday Night Raw, to the point where I personally felt when I was watching it that it was something real happened that wasn't supposed to happen, and I soon realized after that this was a staged event. What happened in question was Braun Strowman tackled Bobby Lashley through the Titantron screen on the stage, which leads down a ramp to the ring. And when they went through it, a lot of fireworks and other things started going off. And even Corey Graves yelled out a curse word on the air, which certainly is a no-no. So that all of these things led me to believe that this was not a staged event. I suppose in retrospect I should have probably clued in when during the commercial breaks the camera stayed on them when the ambulance and EMTs were loading them onto stretchers and everything, but they certainly did a very believable job of making it seem real initially. So, but the fact that Bobby Lashley returned the following night on SmackDown seeming to be in decent shape leads us to believe that this was all very much a staged thing, and I certainly feel that this is a feud which will carry on for a while yet. Braun Strowman has yet to appear since that incident, and since he's the fact that they're fighting just 2 weeks after in a last man standing match at Extreme Rules, I think is definitely evidence enough that neither person is that seriously hurt as a result of that incident on the stage. So that said, I feel that Bobby Lashley right now, the fact that he's been returned healthy, and they really haven't done much with his heel character lately, I think that they're going to also portray Braun Strowman being less than 100% tonight. So it all logic points to Bobby Lashley being victorious here, but this also not signifying the end of this feud yet. So Bobby Lashley is my pick to be victorious in the last man standing match tonight. Someone else who we haven't seen in quite a while is Bobby Lashley's little sidekick buddy, Lio Rush. I wonder if he's going to have some role in helping Bobby Lashley be victorious tonight. Who knows? I don't really know what the status of his character is right now, but regardless, I'm choosing Bobby Lashley to be victorious in a feud which will most definitely continue beyond tonight. The third match on the card is a match between the returning Aleister Black taking on the person who has made a challenge towards him, Cesaro. Aleister Black last competed at WrestleMania, and prior to WrestleMania, him and Ricochet were a tag team together for many weeks, and they were getting as big a push as anybody in recent memory in WWE. Ricochet, of course, has gone on and won himself a championship, the United States Championship, and Aleister Black has been just kind of off on the sidelines for a while, possibly nursing an injury. I couldn't tell you for sure. But since now he's returning back into the fold, I would have to say that it would be foolish for WWE not to give him a victory. And Cesaro, unfortunately, the victory is going to come at the hands of Cesaro. Cesaro is such a talented performer, one of the most underrated performers in the WWE roster. And I think, in fact, kind of a good choice for Aleister Black to beat because he's no slouch of a competitor. But Cesaro certainly deserves his own championship, runs besides his tag team belts with Sheamus that they won. They were with the Bar together. So, but regardless, as far as tonight's match goes, Aleister Black will be victorious over Cesaro. The fourth match of the night is a triple threat match for the SmackDown Tag Team Championships, featuring champions Daniel Bryan and Rowan taking on The New Day, taking on Heavy Machinery. I have to go with Daniel Bryan and Rowan retaining their belts here. I have a feeling that this feud among all three teams might continue on until SummerSlam next month. Heavy Machinery certainly is in line to win the belts at some point soon. I don't imagine it happening tonight. I think it would be a bit more gratifying for them and for the WWE Universe if they won at a more prestigious event like SummerSlam. We'll see. I mean, it's obviously difficult to say which of these teams will be in the fold next month, but I would imagine this feud with all three teams might continue on until next month. But regardless, Daniel Bryan and Rowan are certainly doing a more than capable job of being tag team champs, and I don't mind seeing their run extend a bit longer since they're portrayed as such good heel characters. So my pick is for Daniel Bryan and Rowan to retain their SmackDown tag team belts. The next match on the night, the fifth match, is for the Raw Tag Team Championships, and this is featuring the champions, the Revival, taking on the Usos. The Revival haven't held these belts for very long, so I'm sticking with them to retain over the Usos. And I should also point out there hasn't been a lot of attention being put forth for this matchup, so I would be surprised if there's a title change going on here. I think Revival will win and retain their belts there. The next match is for the United States Championship, featuring champion Ricochet taking on AJ Styles. And in recent weeks, AJ Styles has rejoined his group, his buddies there, the Club, or otherwise known as Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson, and he's kind of returned to a bit more of a heel character role. Because of this, when the WWE does a big character change like that, especially when it's turning from a good guy babyface into a heel bad guy character, it makes the most sense for them to reward the newly turned heel by giving them some momentum and getting some victories or championship victories, whatever the case is. And sometimes you see heel characters turn into babyface characters too, and similar logic there too, that you would want to reward a babyface, a newly sort of viewed babyface, good guy character, with also victories and some momentum and possible championships. So here, I think AJ Styles will most likely have some assistance from Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson, and I think he will win the United States Championship from Ricochet tonight. But I also feel that this is a feud which will certainly continue for another month or two at least. So there might be some title changes back and forth here, but tonight will be AJ Styles' night. He will win the United States Championship. The next match on the card is for the SmackDown Women's Championship in a handicap match, with Bayley as the champion taking on both Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross. I like what the WWE creative has done with the Alexa Bliss Nikki Cross storyline, with Alexa quite clearly using Nikki Cross, but Nikki not being able to see that she's being used by Alexa. I think to make things more interesting, since Alexa lost last month to Bayley when Nikki Cross tried to help her, I think it would be good to give Alexa and Nikki the belt. And I'm curious to see how the WWE would handle that with them. Nikki Cross announced on SmackDown this week that they would be co-champion, SmackDown Women Champions. But I'm sure Alexa would have something to say about that and would keep dragging Nikki along, which certainly will, I think, culminate in some kind of a big feud at SummerSlam, possibly with all three women, or maybe Alexa and Nikki. Their friendship might come to an end at SummerSlam's time, but regardless, I think Alexa and Nikki, it would make the most sense for them to be victorious over Bayley. But like I said, this is a feud certainly which I also feel will carry over into SummerSlam next month. So this one there will be, I think, some titles changing hands also with this particular feud, but I'm still picking Alexa and Nikki to win tonight. Just more of a gut feeling. I think that would be more interesting creatively for them to do that. The eighth match on the card is for the WWE Championship, featuring the champion Kofi Kingston taking on Samoa Joe. Quite simply, I don't think Kofi Kingston's WWE Championship title run, or his title reign, will come to an end just yet. Samoa Joe will lose to Kofi Kingston tonight. This feud could also carry over to SummerSlam. That's the thing when you have pay-per-views, the ones that precede the big four pay-per-views of SummerSlam, Survivor Series, Royal Rumble, and WrestleMania. Oftentimes, some of these feuds are early on in their development. The programs are just still in the midst of the storytelling, and they sometimes culminate at one of those big four shows. This is another one where I don't see Samoa Joe just falling right out of the picture after tonight. But regardless, he's not going to win the WWE Championship tonight. Kofi Kingston will retain over Samoa Joe, with, like I said, a very strong likelihood that this will continue into next month. The ninth match of the night is an Extreme Rules winners-take-all mixed tag team match for the Universal and Raw Women's Championships. That's a mouthful. We have Universal Champion Seth Rollins and his girlfriend, Raw Women's Champion Becky Lynch, taking on Baron Corbin and Lacey Evans. And as I'm about to give this prediction, I'm looking right now at the WWE.com website, and a stipulation I've noticed that they've added, which I don't recall them mentioning on television at all these last few weeks, is that if Corbin and Evans lose, they can never challenge Rollins and Lynch for the titles again. Which I think is, that makes things a little bit more interesting. I gotta say, all along I've been thinking Rollins and Becky Lynch will retain, and I could see Corbin and Lacey Evans certainly winning the belts at some point, definitely this calendar year. But I don't think it'll happen in a dubious way like this. I don't think Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins will lose in this manner tonight. They just this last month announced publicly that they were a dating couple. I think they're going to keep this little power couple thing going for a while, certainly in the storyline as well. But that stipulation's interesting. It makes me think that, it makes me second guess myself and think that, well, if they lose, they can never challenge Rollins and Lynch for the titles again. It makes me think they would win, but I just don't see that happening. I don't know. I still think they'll still I still believe they will be able to challenge for the titles again soon. Maybe it won't be Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins holding those belts, but regardless, Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch are too popular right now, too hot with the fans, I think, for both of them to lose the belts at the same time. I just don't see it happening. So I'm thinking that Rollins and Becky Lynch retain both of their belts over Baron Corbin and Lacey Evans. So those Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch are my pick for that match. And now the final match of the night, the 10th match. We have a no-holds-barred tag team match with the team of The Undertaker and Roman Reigns taking on Shane McMahon and Drew McIntyre. Even though Shane McMahon and Drew McIntyre and some of other Shane's buddies, Elias, The Revival, they've formed some kind of a faction or an alliance, and I think they're really giving them quite a heel push. I think that the team of Undertaker and Roman Reigns, and the fact that it'll just be so pleasing for the audience to see those two be victorious together. I can't imagine Undertaker and Roman Reigns losing, but I can't help but wonder how this will affect SummerSlam's card. I would imagine Undertaker is going to be a part of it if he's a part of this one the month before, which is a less publicized one. I don't know. The thought ran through my mind that we might see an Undertaker-Roman Reigns rematch that they had at WrestleMania a few years ago at SummerSlam. And in that sense, it would be one of them turning on each other. But ultimately, I think that's going to be a crowd-pleasing result for that match. I think it's going to, WWE's giving the fans what they want, which is, since they're teaming up for the first time ever, Undertaker and Roman Reigns, I think they're going to give them the victory, even though that completely buries some of the momentum of Shane McMahon and Drew McIntyre. Logic to me points out that those guys might win, but I'm going with Undertaker and Roman Reigns, and Roman Reigns has been my wild card of this season of my podcast. I've gotten every match of his wrong at the pay-per-views, so I'm hoping that I break that little streak, and I'm picking him and Undertaker to win. So I really hope that happens, and that my Roman Reigns curse doesn't continue for this season of my podcast. Okay, folks, there you have it. Those are the 10 matches for tonight's Extreme Rules 2019 pay-per-view. Hopefully it's an entertaining show. I suspect we'll see 2 title changes, like I said. The United States Championship and the SmackDown Women's Championship change hands. But we'll see. And I definitely want to fare better than I did at last month's pay-per-view show. So thanks very much for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe to my YouTube channel below if you liked what you heard. And thanks for listening, and see you next time.